Hey you guys! So today's project is all about the holidays. You guys know, like I love industrial style and there aren't a lot of options like on the market. So I usually end up making my own stuff. So one of the things I made were some like industrial stockings for my fireplace and I thought I would share you guys how I make them. Hi, my name is Royce Hunt Bell, owner and operator of Roycycled Treasures. Let's get started. So, just to tell you guys, like I legit took my husband's socks and we just laid them on a piece of plywood and we just traced them. And so, because I wanted the socks to look like the old school, like you see pictures of like Christmas a long time ago and people use like their actual socks on the fireplace. That's kind of what I wanted to emulate. And so each of them is a little different. Um, and yes, my husband has big feet. We all do. We're tall people. And so we have these stockings. And so today I'm going to show you guys how to create this super yummy texture. And then we're going to go over your options for painting to achieve like different colors. So the products that I'm going to use today I'm going to be using some salt wash today. And I'll be using Wise Owl's Chalk Synthesis paint in several colors. I have some Weather Vane here. Weather Vane is a super nice neutral gray. It's warm. Like this is a beautiful color to use in your home, you guys. It's Weather Vane. And then I have some chocolate and a lighter gray, which is Smoky Quartz. It's like a much lighter gray than the others. And I also have some glaze. You guys know I love my 50-50 mix of black walnut glaze and Java glaze to achieve like my custom color that I like. And then I also have some of Wise Owl's Heavy Metals metallic paint and copper because this is super fun to use on this process as well. In order to create our texture though, we're actually going to be using Iron Orchid Designs stamps and we're going to be using them in a non-traditional way. So this is IOD's Barnwood stamp. You guys, this stamp is so versatile. I think that I'm going to do multiple projects using this stamp over the next few months just to show you guys how many options this gives you for adding texture to your projects. Today we're going to be adding physical texture because we're going to be using this stamp in a different kind of a way. But even if you use it with ink, it creates this beautiful visual texture to your projects. And I absolutely love it. This is probably one of my favorite stamps that I have in my collection. Don't laugh at me, but I have like a little spatula. Honestly, this is a rubber spatula from Dollar Tree. I just took the handle off, and so I'm going to be using this. And I'm also going to be using the Wet n Wild makeup brushes from Dollar Tree. I love these for dusting my stamps because they're like super fluffy. And even with your molds, you guys, these are like really good for dusting your molds too. So let's get down to the business of actually making our stocking. I'm going to start off with a base coat using the Smoky Quartz. I like using gray, even if I want my wood to look like more richer and brown. I still like to start off with a gray base coat because if you look closely at wood, you guys, it's not just one color, it's multiple colors. And so we'll be using multiple colors for our process today. So I've just squirted a little bit of the Smoky Quartz into my bowl, and then I'm going to add some of my salt wash in here as well. So I'm just going to mix this until it's as thick as I want. Probably because we're working on this project together today, I'm going to make it pretty thick so that I can move on to the second step relatively quickly. So mine is pretty thick. You guys see, like this is like, I don't know, drop biscuits maybe? That's how thick it is. So I've made it pretty thick. So I am just going to put this on my stocking and we're going to spread it over the entirety of the stocking. I want it to be relatively even, but it doesn't have to be perfectly even. Because when I go to make my impression with my stamp, those variations are actually going to make it look like more realistic. just taking my little spatula, and I'm going to spread that over the body of my stocking. This is so much fun. We're actually working on a faux fireplace for the Pinners Conference, and we're going to use this process because we use the insulation foam. You know how you can buy those sheets of like styrofoam insulation, and it's like an inch thick. We use that to build a replica of the fireplace behind me, and we're going to use this process to make it look like it's real wood. So that'll be my afternoon. I'm actually really excited about that. And you guys, I'm going to be at Pinners in Scottsdale, Arizona on November 12th. And we're going to be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, hanging out all day. We'll have make and takes in our booth. So if you're going to be in the area, like, come see us. Come see us. Come hang out and craft with me. I am going to be doing a presentation on Friday night. I believe it's at 5 p.m. And I'm kind of nervous and excited about that, right? So it'll be fun if you guys can come out and hang out with us for a little bit. So that's my stocking. I have it all covered. It's pretty even. And so what I'm doing is I'm not going to wait for it to dry fully, but I do want my surface to be dry. So I'm going to wait. Right now, when I look at it, I can see a bit of a shine over the top where there's moisture. So the way that I figure that it's ready is just when the top starts looking matte. I know it's dry. You don't want to wait too long, because if you wait too long and the whole thing dries, then you won't be able to successfully push your stamps in to make the impression. So it's a bit of a dance, and it may take you a couple times, you know, to kind of figure out like the perfect place. But it's not that big of a learning curve, you guys. This is super easy. So I'm gonna let this dry, and then we come back. We're gonna get to the fun part. Now that my surface is dry, you guys, I feel like it's safe for me to go ahead and make my impressions on my sock. So I love this grain is my favorite. It's like, it looks like walnut to me. So this is my favorite one. So we're going to use this one to do our first impression. And I like to take my knots, these are like the wood knots, and use them on the heel and the toe to kind of like differentiate between the different places on my sock. So I'm going to take my sock, and I have, this is just regular cornstarch, you guys. This is my craft room cornstarch, not my kitchen cornstarch that we're using today. And so just a little bit, you don't need like a ton, but I'm going to dust my entire stamp so that it doesn't stick to my project. So I'm going to take this and like literally, you guys, I'm just going to lay it over my texture and really push that in there. And I'm missing my heel right here, but I'm okay with that because I'm going to go back and do an impression with my knot anyways. Pull that up, and you see how I was able to create that yummy texture. Now you'll notice that I have highs and lows here. There's some low-lying areas where I didn't get an impression. It's not a huge deal. There's probably just not, it's probably not as thick there. But because I'm only after the texture, if that happens, I can just go back in and just add it like randomly like this, because it doesn't have to be, you know, perfectly in line with the stamp necessarily. And so this end of the sock goes this way to me, and so I'm going to turn my stamp this way, and let's use the other side. And I'm going to lay it down and kind of go over, and I'm not going to push really hard on the toe because I know that I want to go over the toe with my wood knot. And so I'm able to create this super yummy texture using my stamp. I just love this process. Of course, you guys know I'm a texture junkie, right? And so I'm just going to go in with my knots, and I didn't dust these, so I hope they don't stick too bad. And that's it. How easy was that? And so now I have this surface. I don't know if you guys can see that. You see that beautiful wood grain on that surface? So now I have a stocking that has this super cool wood grain surface on it. I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to let this dry, and we're going to come back and we're going to paint it. So I'm going to show you guys like different options that you have for creating like different types of wood, if you will. So for the sake of today's demonstration, because I had one ready already, I've already just primed this one gray, you guys. So we're going to go in and we're going to paint it though to make it look even more like wood. Because right now you really can't see the texture because everything is one color. So we're going to go in and do some things to really heighten the texture of this piece. And I actually pulled out an alternative color because I want to show you guys something. I have gray. This is gray primer that I primed it because it was already painted, but I wanted to show you guys how to paint. So I'm actually going to use Higgins Lake. It's a blue because we're going to make like a weathered wood kind of a finish. And so when you look at those like really gray weathered pieces, I almost feel like there's a blue undertone to them. So let's start off with some blue as a base coat for this piece. I know, it sounds crazy, but it's gonna work, I promise. So we're gonna do like a weathered look here. But you could start off with a brown and then dry brush it with like a tan color and go in with some glaze and drop it into the recesses if you want it just a traditional brown wood. If you wanted just like a gray wood without the blue undertones, you could start out with a mid-tone gray and then drop in do like a gray wash and drop it into the recessed area. So when I say drop it into the recessed areas, I mean when you could take a darker gray paint and water it down a little bit, paint your piece, and then wipe everything back over the high points. And so that darker color just will sit in the recesses when you do that, kind of like when you glaze. And then you could go over the whole piece with a glaze. There are so many opportunities, you guys. But we're going to do like a weathered look today. I'm just watering this down a little bit because I'm actually going to wipe it back a bit. So I don't want to wipe all of the blue off. I just want to lift some of it off because I don't want it to be completely blue. So I'm dabbing more than I'm wiping because I kind of like that gray kind of peeking through. And so I'm just going to dab it off. But I still want it to be on my high points a little bit because otherwise it'll disappear when I do my other steps on this piece. So you can see how the blue is there, but you can still see the gray kind of peeking through. So I'm going to go ahead and dry this, and then we'll come back and we'll move on to the next step. So I want this to look like, you know, like the wood that's been like out in the sun and the rain and it's like really gray. So I'm going to use Smoky Quartz, which is a really light gray. Whoops, I just flicked some paint in my brow. So we're going to use this as our next color that we're going to put on a piece. And I'm not even going to wash my brush because it's going to end up being all the same anyways. I do want to just kind of spray my surface and just so my paint will move around, and I'm almost creating another wash using this paint. I'm going to go in with that gray, and I'm going over the blue, but it still has that kind of a blue tinge underneath the Smoky Quartz. And so that's what it looks like now. It looks gray, but it still has that kind of a blue tone underneath my gray, which really lends to that like sun bleached look, I guess, that we're going for. So let's try this, and then we'll move on to our next step. So now that this layer is dry, you guys, I wish I could show you. You can see the gray, but you can still see that blue underneath there, which is exactly what I wanted. Now, before I move forward to put my glaze on, I'm going to seal this. So I'm just using a little bit of Wise Owl's 1 Hour Enamel to seal this. You can use a water-based sealer that you have. Honestly, I'm using the 1 Hour Enamel because it's available on my table. I would use a varnish if it would have been here. Because in this instance, it really doesn't matter. I am literally just sealing this so that I can go in and add some glaze. Just a super quick, thin coat. And we're going to let this coat of sealer dry. And then we'll go in with some of our glaze. And even now, you probably can't see a lot of the details, but once we start adding our glazes and doing some dry brushing, we're really going to take advantage of all these nooks and crannies that we've created with our barnwood stamp. So I just realized something, y'all. I should have dry brushed this before I sealed it. So we're going to do that together. I just have a little antique via here. We're going to dry brush over the high points of our piece using the antique via, and this is going to help to really highlight the details that we've created using our barnwood stamp on our stocking. And I know this is a really layered finish, but I love finishes like this because you can create so much dimension with these processes. So I'm going to load my brush because I want paint all over my brush. But then I'm going to offload like almost all of this paint off of my brush before I start dry brushing my piece. And so I just have a piece of parchment paper here on my work table. And I am just literally dabbing off. I'm actually going to dab off even more on this paper towel. And so what I'm going to do before I go over my surface, I'm going to take my brush and kind of go over the edge of my piece like this. And that's going to help to get rid of any extra. And this also like informs you of when your brush is ready to start brushing over your surface, because this is still depositing more paint than I want. But once I'm to a place where I'm satisfied with the amount of paint that the brush is depositing, now I know that I'm safe to go over the top, and that I won't end up with a lot of streaks because I won't have a lot of extra paint on my paintbrush. So you guys see that? And so I'm literally only brushing over the top of my piece. And those low-lying areas are maintaining that original color. So that's what I mean by layered pieces creating depth, because now visually I can see the white on the top, and I can see the gray that's on the bottom, and I can still see that blue cast from my base coat of the Higgins Lake that I put on here. And so all those different variations just creates a beautiful depth to my piece, and it gives it a lot of extra interest. Now I could stop right here. Like if you wanted like a super light weathered wood, you could absolutely stop here. But y'all know I'm not gonna stop here. We're gonna do some glaze. We're gonna do some glaze because I want to also, we've like highlighted the high points, but I want to drop some glaze into our low points so that we can really show off all that super yummy texture that we've created. Before we do our glaze though, we're gonna have to seal again. So just for correction, you guys, Higgins Lake, right? Smoky quartz, and then Drybrush, and then glaze. But I'm gonna have to glaze twice because I jumped the gun a little bit. So I do want to seal this white because when I go over it with a dark glaze, I don't want my white paint to get really dark really quickly, because then I'll lose the benefit of having it there. So I'm gonna go in and just seal that again, just to seal that white dry brush that we just put on there so that it doesn't soak up a bunch of glaze when I put the glaze on there. So now I've sealed my piece, you guys, and we are going to glaze this. And I'm using a 50-50 mixture. You guys know my favorite, 50% black walnut and 50% Java. Or maybe for this one, I won't do that. You know what? I'm just going to use the black walnut. The Java is a super rich chocolate brown, but because we're creating like this really weathered, almost bleached wood look, I'm only going to use the black walnut. Black walnut is really deep, but it's also really gray. And so it's a cooler glaze, which I think is perfect for this. So this is all sealed. Do I want to save my brush? I think I want to save that because I might want to do some more dry brushing. And I'm going to spray my piece, right? Because I want this to be able to move easily, and I don't want it to be like super dark and super saturated. So I'm going to be pretty liberal with the amount of water that I put on here. And then I'm going to go in with my glaze. And my goal here is to drop the glaze into my recesses and then to wipe it back off of the high points. So I'm just really kind of pushing it down into my texture and letting it settle down in there. So I have a nice even coat there, and I am just going to take my paper towel that I had from earlier, and I don't want to wipe into my texture. I literally just want to wipe over the top, and I want to leave that glaze dropped into the texture. So I'm going over super light, you guys, with my paper towel. You see how that texture begins to come to life with each step that we take. So now I have this light color on my high points, and I have this beautiful glaze that's dropped down into my low points, and it's really, really highlighting all that yummy texture. So I'm going to dry this really quickly, and I think I'm going to go back in again with my Antique Via over my high points, just to like bring them forward a little bit more. Okay, you guys, I just changed my mind again because it's Christmas, and so we want to add a little bit of bling to our stocking. It's like good, right? We could stop right here and we could be done. We could stop right here, although I feel like I need a little bit more highlight. So I'm feeling like I want to go in with my white. And you guys know that these are really like, these projects are not done until you're happy with your result, right? And it's just paint, so you can go back and forth if you want, and make adjustments as you go until you're happy with your piece. And so I'm just gonna do a little bit more of the dry brushing with the Antique Via. I just want to brighten it up a little bit more. I think that the glaze made it a little darker. See, I think that's better, but I couldn't stop without doing some finger painting. So this is Wise Owl's Heavy Metals Gilding Paint, and this is Mercury. This color is called Mercury, and I think that it's going to be perfect. It's a perfect color to add a little life to this piece. So I'm not even going to open the jar really, because this little piece from this little piece of foil is going to be enough for what we're going to do today. So finger painting, you guys know I love it. And I am just going to go over the high points on this with the metallic, and not even necessarily over the whole thing. Maybe. I'm really digging that. Just to add a little bit of bling. It's the holidays. So even our rustic stuff can be like, you know, fabulous. And that's it, you guys. That's how I make my stockings. Look, this one's almost dry and ready to paint. These are so fun. And we talked about like different paint finishes earlier. This one, I started off with the gray blue, and I went over it with a glaze. And that one's a little bit warmer than the one because I used the Mercury, which really cooled this one down a lot. This one was just gray. Two different color grays with the glaze over the top of that one. And this one was the one that I did was a little warmer, right? I used chocolate brown, I believe, gray and chocolate brown. And then you guys can see that I use copper, the Heavy Metals paint from Wise Owl in copper, and I finger painted over the top of that just to give it a little bit of bling. But these are super fun, and once you make them, they can just become part of your decorations. You can put them away every year. These were ones I made last year, and you can pull them out. So these will be going on my fireplace today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys love this project, and I hope I see you guys make this project. If you do, be sure and send it to me. You guys know what? I would love to see any projects that you guys make that you've learned from any of my tutorials. So you can send them or email them to contact us at roycycled.com. I would love to see them and actually share them here on the channel. That would be pretty awesome. But again, my name is Royce Hunt Bell of Roycycled Treasures. If you guys like today's tutorials or you like our tutorials, be sure and click the button to subscribe. If you hit the bell, you'll actually get an alert whenever we upload a new video, and we upload videos every week. If you're looking for any of the supplies that you saw me use here today, you can find them at roycycled.com. I'll be sure and leave a link below. Thank you so much. You guys have a blessed day, and you guys know what? You guys can do anything that you saw me do here today. So just remember, you can do this and you can do it today. Have a blessed week.